Welcome back to the Modern Hippie Podcast. I am joined today by a special being of light, Elaina Ray, who is a business coach and author of Becoming Self-Made, which recounts her journey of discovering her soul's purpose and building a multi-million-dollar business in under 2 years. I've recently enlisted Elaina as my business coach, and I am so excited to have you join me today. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
What I loved about you when we first connected was you have this really deep connection to your intuition. You have this really deep connection to spirit, to source, to channeling messages. When did you know you had that gift, or how did you develop that sense?
Yeah, I believe it's something that we all have. And I believe it's something that we don't have to jump over crazy hurdles and sit in 100 ayahuasca ceremonies and do like so much work in order to access. I do believe it is like there's an access point available for everyone, I mean, especially women. I would say my spiritual journey really started in 2012, along with a lot of people. It was really magical years and magical timing. And it started with, maybe this is going beyond the question, but I was like around 25 or 20. No, this was like earlier, like 23, 24. But a couple of years after that, I completely stopped drinking alcohol. And that was when actually I felt very tapped into that world. And I noticed that if I could remove things that seemed to interfere with this natural ability, then it would be right there and so potent. And so I suppose that's been my process of remove the interference to this thing that is God-given and readily available.
You really are just touching on exactly what I'm going through right now. The message has come through from my spirit guides and whatnot that I'm about to take a break from plant medicines and psychedelics, which are my bread and butter, my safety net, my space I love exploring. And as more of my gifts are coming online, it's time to sit with them for a few months, devoid of any and other, not interference, but crutches, perhaps.
That's really powerful. Yeah, and I think we all have our own way of accessing it. I know plant medicines have been such an important part of your journey. For me, I've really developed a lot of my abilities more through the traditional path of yoga. I've spent a lot of time in India sitting with various masters, the path of tantra and sacred sexuality, and not the way that we commonly hear it nowadays, but a much more traditional version of that, meditation, and a lot of body work and like somatic work that's really purified my physical vessel. And I found that for me, that's been one of the best access points is how can I make my physical body this like antenna to spirit? And the more I found that I could release stored emotions and unhealthy, I used to go and party and do all of those things and just got really sober and I got really in my body. And I got really on purpose. And then all of that magic was amplified.
I'm curious, what were some of the biggest emotional or spiritual things within you that you had to heal in order to really feel most embodied and like this pure vessel?
Yeah. Well, I think for a long time, there's some basic things for a long time because of like my body type. I could just eat whatever and I wasn't very conscious around that, or like anyone who would just grow up on the average American diet. Like I had to just really get my food game dialed. And so I've done a lot of detoxing and protocols to like remove heavy metals and things like that I've actually found had it's not just physical, it actually is cleaning out at a deeper level. Like my gut health is my brain health. And there were a lot of overlaps there. And then I did a lot of body work. And it's both conscious material and unconscious material. So things that I was conscious of, family traumas or things from my childhood that I was holding on to, like those got yelled out, cried out, spit out on the table with my healers. And unconscious material where like he'd just be, pressing into my shoulder and I'm having like all this energy move and I had no idea what was going on. I think that's a really important thing with healing is creating space for, not everything we're going to have a story for or conscious awareness around. And both pieces are wonderful. And I think that's actually what's really great about psychedelics is it does give you that access to more of that unconscious material too, to get that cleared out.
Mm-hmm. And how did it happen that plant medicines just haven't called to you? I know they haven't been a part of your journey up until this point.
I think this is like trust. Like everyone has their own path of discovery and trusting that and not just trusting what everyone else is doing. I think I'm one of the few people who lived in Bali for 5 years who's been on a spiritual path for like 12 or 15 years and has not set ayahuasca. I think it might come this year. I'm feeling called in that direction, but it's a very slow, like, I'm not just hopping into, I take that realm very seriously. And I also have access. I have a lot of access already to that realm. So I haven't felt like cut off from certain types of experiences or connection that I think other people might seek plant medicine for. And I feel like those windows are open in my life and experience. So I think it's been a like, I trust and I'm okay being different than a lot of other people. And I really trust my body's wisdom.
Powerful. And I think in a very important message, it's like, listen to your body. It is not one size fits all. Psychedelics are not one size fits all. All the healing work is not one size fits all. And just so powerful. Something I'm working through with a lot of my clients as well is like, release it, don't have to understand it, and a different protocol for each person.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So I'm curious, you started on this awakening path around 2012 is what I'm understanding. And what were you doing for work at the time? What was supporting you through this growth?
So I worked, that was right after college, and I worked at IBM in New York. I was a management consultant. And my soul was like, no, this is not what we're meant to do. I was really in a hard place, resisting it a lot, knowing that there was something else. But I also, being an entrepreneur was not on my radar back then. And my book kind of goes into this. I didn't have any confidence in my ability to earn money or live outside of, like, I was an overachiever type. So I knew if I'm in a corporate space, I know the buttons to press, I know the rungs to climb on the ladder, I can do that. And it didn't really occur to me to leave the ladder. But in 2013, I did get an opportunity to have my absolute dream job. And I left IBM in New York. It was 2013. I left the US and I didn't return to the US until last year, 2023. So for 10 years, I went and traveled the world. And the first 2 years were with this company. But that was like a huge leap. It was a huge risk to go and pack up my entire life and leave the country. And I was assigned to West Africa, and I was traveling like all over in very remote places. And I think that really started to catalyze this idea of, we used to joke at that job that we were unemployable after that because we had had such exceptional experiences. I was meeting the president of Mongolia. I was going to meet the president of Guyana. We were doing like crazy things. But in that, I started to meet people who were entrepreneurs, who did have other ways of living, who had posted up in whatever country it was, Johannesburg or wherever, and had made a living on their own. And I think those seeds started to show me like my love of travel and my love of culture and languages in the world is what actually got me started as a business owner, because I felt I wanted that degree of freedom to see this planet while I'm alive. And so, yeah, and that kind of goes into the work that I do now of creating communities for people to grow their businesses by being exposed to other amazing people. Because I know I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today if I didn't meet those early like digital nomads and entrepreneurs and misfit types who showed me a different way. And it gradually like grew on me that I could have that too.
You highlight such an important principle, which is that frequency of people who you're around, whether that's a coach and mentor or whether that's simply your circle. But whatever their belief structure is, yours will tend to adapt. And so the importance of being like not the smartest person in the room, not the most successful person in the room, and allowing that circle to help elevate you.
Yeah. I think I deviated a little bit from the original point, which is around like how that tied into my spiritual awakening, because I think that the crunchy bit in between, I feel called to do this thing and have this way of life, but I'm not there yet. And I don't see the way forward. And I have no idea how that's going to happen for me. And here I am, like I'm in a dream job, but it's not where my soul really knows it's. And so there's that like borderland of the purpose. And I think that catalyzed a lot of spiritual work because I needed to figure out what is my purpose, what is my direction, and deep down, do I have what it takes? Like, God help me. Like, I want this. Help me figure out how to make that happen. And that's a very spiritual question to be with.
Yeah. Based on the journey that you went through, what are one or two things that you'd say were paramount to leaning into and learning and listening to what your soul's purpose is?
Whew. I would say number one, following the breadcrumbs. Like, you might not see exactly where everything is leading, but I can trace my multi-million-dollar business back to this blog that I started in Nigeria in 2013. And it was called Life Before 30. And I just felt this passion for writing and sharing about my travels. And the funny thing was I did that for years, and I got published on some pretty big names like Business Insider and Fast Company, and people would find me. And then people started asking for sessions. Like, they wanted to pick my brain about how I was living this lifestyle. And I didn't call it coaching back then. I didn't really know coaching was a thing. I didn't think I was going to be destined to be a millionaire coach and do the work that I do now. I was just like, oh, people want help with this. That's cool. That feels right for me. I can offer that. And that's how I made my first $100 as my own entity and not from a paycheck, was through that. So I think that's number one, like, follow the breadcrumbs, follow the little passions, the little inklings of the universe, even when you don't see it, you see the full picture. And number two, there's going to be a lot of moments of sitting in the void, sitting in the not knowing, sitting in, is this ever going to work out for me? And that's very uncomfortable. And I think anyone who chooses a path of really living their purpose is doing something extraordinary. And I know people listening to this are those kind of people. Like, so we're not normal. Most people don't do this. And I say that if you want extraordinary results, you have to be willing to do extraordinary things, which includes sitting in some periods of your life where there is a lot of discomfort, a lot of unknown, or a lot of fear or risk taking. Can't count even on two hands and all of my toes the number of times I did something completely insane, like booked a ticket to somewhere insane, spent an insane amount of money on something, walked away from something that seemed right, walked into something that seemed not right to everyone else, but I knew, yada, yada, yada. And that, I know, has made me. And when I look at my clients who also really succeed in living their purpose and monetizing their dharma, they're the type of people who are like, cool, let's take some risks, let's get uncomfortable. And I don't mind how long this takes because I know I will get to the other side.
Oh my gosh, you just said something that resonates to the core of my soul, which is to achieve extraordinary things, you have to be willing to do extraordinary things and do the things that really make you uncomfortable and sit in those spaces. That is just so incredibly powerful. And when did it go then for you from you're now having consultations, maybe I'm using quotation marks here since you didn't call it coaching, but consultations on how to travel the world, to now I am Elaina Ray, multimillionaire. What was that transition like?
So that whole transition was still like, I started coaching with those little sessions in like 2015. I founded the company that I use now as like my S Corp and like what I do now in 2019. I made my first million in 2021. So this is still like a pretty narrow window of time. And it seemed like forever at the same time. So this is a good question, actually. I think people started to book more and more of those little sessions. I quit the dream job. I took that leap. I was like, I don't want to work for anyone else. I know that's not my destiny. I don't identify with being a CEO, or I was not trying to become a millionaire. I just wanted to go to India whenever I felt like it, and I just wanted to make enough money as like a freelancer to do that. And so I think between 2015 and 2019, I had like freelancing type of work. I worked as a travel writer. I had an online gig. I worked for Uber for a while as one of their project managers in various places around the world. I had some pretty cool gigs, but that helped to kind of warm me up. Again, it was like breadcrumbs. It was small steps, actually, of like, let me warm myself up to this idea of not having a steady paycheck, of being sort of my own entity that had gifts, that could share things with different types of organizations. And then in 2019, I remember hitting a wall at the very beginning of that year. where I realized I had moved to Bali at that point on a one-way ticket. I had very little money left. It was hard. I was juggling maybe 3 or 4 different jobs to make my rent. And I just sort of drew a line in the sand where it got to the point of, is this a career? Is this a way forward? Am I going to be able to be 30, 35 and set up the way I want in life doing this? No. And I came across my first business coach in Bali kind of serendipitously. And she was working with people like me. She was making 6 figures a year. She was helping other people do that. And the intuition came, the guidance came. I was like, I need to hire this woman. Even though I've never done anything like that before, I don't know what kind of a business I would really formally run. And she charges more than all of my life savings and then some. So what am I going to do about that?
Yeah, shit.
But I said yes. And that decision to have mentorship at that level, really, it like everything changed very, very quickly. And I went into that like didn't have a niche, didn't have an offer, didn't have a lot of things figured out, even how I would finish paying her. But that leap and that choice of, okay, here's a line in the sand in my life. What do I really want? Can I commit 100% to that thing or go get a job and go do something else with my life? And that latter was not really an option.
So then you created your coaching platform. How long did that sort of take before you had an idea of what it was that you wanted your niche to be and your offer to be?
We got to that point in a couple of months. And as soon as I had the fire under my butt and a really good support system, we were just, when you have someone who has already done this over and over again to sit with you in the same room and look at your business with intention, everything changes. And I had never had that kind of support. I had always done everything on my own before that. So it came together pretty quickly. And then, she really challenged my mindset around pricing and wealth and, what I was going to ask for and how I was going to position myself. And it was really uncomfortable, but I got on board with it. And then I was able to sell like little $1,200 packages. And I was like, oh, that's like 3 months of rent in Bali. And then I would sell like a $2,000 package. And I just did that for 6 to 12 months. And then it started to snowball. And I do think that coaching, I always say this, it's one of those industries where there's a tipping point. It's a tough industry. It's not for the faint of heart. It takes a lot to get to the point where like people recognize you and you have some authority and people want to pay you. But after you get to a certain point, it's like this tipping point. And then you have followers and you have momentum and you have recognition and you can sell different things and people trust you. And then it's like this upward, beautiful spiral. And it can be very easy to do very well financially after that. So that happened in the first year where I got to that point. And then people started coming to me to ask for business advice because I had started just a life coaching business. That was what I started with my first coach because it was most similar to like, hey, I'm going to help you learn how to travel the world or help you make better career decisions, which is what I've been doing on my blog. So I kind of ran with that. And the people were like, wow, you're selling pretty good packages for being a life coach and you're selling personal development work. And I want to do that too. Can you show me? So it was like a breadcrumb. I didn't set out to be a business coach. People kind of asked for it and I felt guided in that direction. It turns out that once I had a little bit of support, I was really good at it. And I understood marketing and sales from my corporate background and all the little pieces clicked together. And then I think that's when I always say wealth has so much to do with alignment. When you're really aligned to the thing that you're meant to do in this world, it goes kaboom. There's just this support, divine support for it when you take risks and lean into it. And this is my work. This is my dharma. And when I clicked into that, the millions came right after that.
Powerful. And I love the speaking to the alignment and how when we're in that frequency, it just magnetizes everything to us. And I also heard you touch on something that I think a lot of people struggle with, which is really having your wealth frequency open. And the stories and the programs that we've told ourselves or that we grew up with believing about wealth. What was the biggest one that you had to overcome for you? What was the story?
I unpacked this one with my coach back in the day, that I had grown up learning how to save money and cut back in order to make ends meet. Like I grew up in a very blue collar type of childhood home. Like my dad worked in construction. My mom stayed home to raise me. Neither of them went to college. like they worked on, I think it was like a $46,000 a yearly salary. And so I was like, oh, my programming is like, no one ever taught me that I could make more money. That if I wanted something and I didn't have the money for it now, it wasn't just save up and cut back and like go into contraction and then like delay getting that thing. It was, oh, how could I actually create something that would bring in more money now so I can have that thing? So this like creation energy of wealth. There's different energies of wealth. That I've spoken about in other teachings. There's like the capacity to have it. There's a capacity to make it. There's the capacity to save it, the capacity to reinvest it, to invest in the first place, like a couple of different ones. So I found that actually the generation energy was really hard for me because I had no examples of that in my life. I didn't grow up around entrepreneurs. My dad worked off this very limited paycheck, and everyone I knew had that frame. So breaking out of that frame was the most liberating thing. It was like a somatic process. It was an emotional process. It was an intellectual frame change, and it was an actual let me go out and prove to myself that I can start to generate at higher and higher capacities and trust my ability to do that. And I think it's one of the things that still comes up for me. I think we can have, I'm by no means over my money stuff. I have made a lot of money, but I'm still working actively through different layers of things. And I think the ability to trust that forever and ever I will be able to generate at an increasing and higher levels is like the edge of my work now and has been for the last few years.
What do you think about you work with a lot of soul-aligned entrepreneurs, a lot of people who are in similar industries as myself, who are doing healing work, who are doing tarot and magic and awakening, and there tends to be this like undercurrent of an idea that if you're really doing healing work, you shouldn't be charging a premium for it. Have you run into that in a lot of people, and what would you say as a rebuttal?
I would say those people generally get so triggered by me that they don't even engage any further with my content. But and then my content really serves to like help people get over that. But if I do, I'm trying to think of how I would address this, because the first thing that comes up when you say that is actually that's not a paradigm that I seek to convince someone otherwise. It's actually not in my dharma to change that mindset. It is present, but it is shifting so rapidly, and there's so many people who already see that. Wow, the old paradigm is I have to struggle and I have to do things that aren't aligned to make money, and then maybe I can have a hobby on the side, or maybe I can do something that feels really good after I put in the work. That was like our parents' generation, or that was like more the money mindset of my mother and father and their mother and father. And I think there's remnants of that still in consciousness in society, where the new paradigm is actually when we're doing our most aligned work, which is the things that they come easy to us, that we're meant to be here. That's what we get compensated for, and we get to get compensated at the highest possible levels because it's the truest work that we're here to do. So that's really, it's just this knowing of both paradigms are valid, both paradigms are real. You can be a healer and choose to struggle, and you can be a healer and be extremely well compensated. And there's people like, I prefer actually to pay, like the healers I have are very expensive. I want to work with healers who have good money energy because they're working so deeply on my system. I don't want that to get like cross-contaminated. So I'm really careful about who works on me and making sure they're really well compensated. And there's a good money energy in our shared space. And there's a lot of people who think like me and who purchase like me. So both realities are available, and it's really up to any given person who's especially a business owner. Which paradigm do you want to be a part of? Because we live in it and we're so great. Like, how amazing is it that we live in a time where there is a borderland, there is a crossover, where these are both coexisting. I believe we're bringing in a future where it's only going to be the other paradigm, where truly everyone is going to be financially free, where everyone is going to be doing their dharma work and getting paid for the thing that comes easily and readily for them, whether that's healing work or building houses or whatever other type of possible dharma there is. I believe our children or our grandchildren will be living in that world. So there are some challenges of us living in the place where they are coexisting, but I want to choose into growing that paradigm. So that's where I'm going to price. That's where who I'm going to work with. And I don't really have the time to convince anyone else who wants to stay in the old paradigm.
Fuck yeah. Just fuck yeah on that one. Because, yeah, right. Life is too short to be convincing people to see the world in your way. And I love that vision of the future where, yes, we are all financially liberated and whatever that means to people, whatever that abundance means, but having that abundance, sitting in that abundance and creating a more abundant world because we are in abundance. It's just so powerful.
Yeah. And been very clear that that's my mission, to help build that. And I'm very proud that I've helped hundreds of people at this point to create that financial freedom for themselves and to participate in that new paradigm. And it's only accelerating because the ripple effect of them being lit up and resourced in this way in the world then allows every single one of them to empower more people to step into this. And it's just a beautiful thing to watch.
Mm-hmm. And so, what I love about your work is the stories we've been discussing about how you got here. All of that channels through what you do. Like, I'm getting ready to start in your mastermind. By the time this comes out, I will have been in it for a little bit, but I did go in on a one-on-one day with you. And we opened this portal that was just incredible. And so, I cannot speak highly enough about you and your work and your wisdom and your insights. Because it just felt like through the whole time there was this channel coming through. And so you bring so much of that intuition into the space. How did you discover that you had a knack for that? And is there anything that you do to purposely finesse more of that?
Yeah. And I will say that that also is such a reflection of you. You know, you are such a powerful channel. You are so open. You are so gifted. And I can truly say that about most, if not all of my clients have these kind of gifts and are very extraordinarily self-aware. I think I work with the most self-aware entrepreneurs on the planet. So when we together bring our energies into one space, then it really opens a portal and a channel. So I don't want to take all of the credit because my clients are bringing 100% of that from their side and I'm bringing 100% from my side. I think I just started to, I'm thinking of a situation even last week where on an Ignite call, I was channeling an answer to a client who was asking about, I think she was feeling a lot of criticism from members of her audience about new things she was putting out. And I was just like, well, is this, I don't remember the thing, but I said basically that, you know, her aunt had told her mom and it, you know, as an example, and she's like, that is literally exactly what happened. And I just like pulls it out of the field. And it was a funny thing, you know, but things like that happen all the time where I'll just hear some words or hear a situation, or I'll pick up on information that hasn't explicitly been shared, but it is in that person's reality. And the first time that I started hearing that, you know, I wouldn't really trust it, or I'm like, why would I give that example? That's so random. What if she doesn't have an aunt or a mom, or I'm like offending this person? But every time I said it, everyone got goosebumps, or it was landing, it was accurate. So for me, it was a process of learning to trust that voice little by little. And if I had an intuitive nudge, kind of prefacing it at the beginning, I'd be like, hey, this might sound crazy, but I'm getting a hit that this might be about this thing. And the person would be like, oh my God, you know, breaking down in tears. So kind of giving a little like, hey, it might be off here. This might not land, and let's not worry about it too much. And then that gave more confidence to keep sharing things that were intuitively coming in. And then I think that gave me more care and desire in seeing how important those pieces are. So I started to really like tune in and ask and want to bring those forward. I think it's a combination of everyone has this. Everyone, I think, listening to this has those intuitive nudges. And it's like, are you validating them? Are you working with them? Are you asking for them? Are you being so grateful after they do come to you? So that's kind of a process that I have of, you know, really asking for those things to come through and being so grateful in the moments when they serve.
And does that filter over into your personal practice? Like, what are you implementing daily, weekly, monthly in your life to manifest and draw in more of that alignment?
Yeah, great question. I journal on a regular basis I write out things that haven't happened yet, but I write them out as if they've already happened, and I'll just brain dump the whole thing and I'll date it. And it's funny because sometimes I'll go back 6 weeks or 8 weeks prior and catch a page and be like, oh, all of these things did happen. How funny is that? So I'll do manifesting that way. I definitely will tune in on a regular basis emotionally to, I think this is how I manifest and work with intuition. Everybody's a bit different. I stay general. I stay with a feeling of like, okay, this is the feeling that I want to have. So I'm working on buying a house in Austin, which is, the real estate market's challenging wherever. And I'm just staying with not a specific home, not trying to put a vision board of how it's going to look, but just being like, I am ready for this home to come in that's going to feel so safe and secure and abundant, and it's financially going to be the perfect number. Everything is going to work out just so perfectly and easily. I'm going to know it's my house as soon as like I come across it, blah, blah, blah. So I'll do a lot of feeling-based work. And then to be honest, lately I've been working with a lot more prayer. I've been feeling very connected. I've been going to like a non-denominational church in Austin on Sundays and getting more connected to prayer, which to me has been different than just a connection to source or spirit, but a real like building a relationship with God in a way that works for me. I grew up Catholic. I've like renounced a lot of that, like don't consider myself religious at all. So it's kind of an interesting, like I'm not religious, I'm not Christian. I wouldn't identify with any of those labels, but I'm feeling called to like pray to God and receive guidance from a different form of spirit. And it's been really beautiful. And I'm kind of in the like, what is this like? But praying for my gifts to come online more, praying for them to be easily accessed, praying for them to be safe for me, I've been praying for my mastermind as we get ready to get started, just setting the container of, and that could be a spiritual ritual. I've done that as well for my masterminds and kind of setting an energy grid for the space, which everyone who's been through my programs will attest to. There is a very high frequency in those containers of love and support and abundance at the highest levels. And so I'm experimenting with like, what would it be like to bring in God to that container in a way that, is a little bit more of an ambivalent term, but I want, really tuning in with like, I want my clients to unlock their gifts in a way that feels so effortless for them and like have this like ecstatic new level of income come into their life and, connections and friendships and love that gets formed in these spaces and yada, yada. So those are some of the ways that I kind of work with a variety of energy and spirit in my personal practices.
Such powerful tools. And I really have a deep appreciation for you getting into prayer and for going to church, even though that's not necessarily like the religious aspect, it sounds like isn't what resonates for you, but being in that ambiance and that setting of other people raising their frequency and belief. I'm also a big believer in interchangeably using the word God, source, universe, divine love, whatever it is. We've all been trying to reference the same thing and just slapping different labels on it. And sometimes I love to have a conversation with God. Sometimes I prefer to talk to the universe. Sometimes I just prefer divine love. But one of my mottos right now is like, let's fucking go, God. Like, if I'm a powerful manifester, then like, let's fucking go. And it's been changing lots of things.
I love that. I actually love the invitation of these different ways of relating to spirit or source and how they can change. Like I had never really thought about it the way that you said it. I thought it was really beautiful.
Thank you. And so what are you super excited about right now? You mentioned you're buying a house in Austin. Your mastermind's getting ready to kick off. What has just got you lit these days?
Yeah, I went on a journey the last couple of months with my real estate business. And actually, I had built this big property in Bali I purchased part of it in 2020. I extended it and built it myself 2021, 2022. And I left Bali pretty much as soon as it was finished. But I've had this catalyst of seeing this as a really amazing tool of financial freedom. And truthfully, because of my property there and the way that I chose to invest, and it was aggressive and it was scary and it was in a foreign market and all this stuff that no one else no one sane did what I did during the pandemic, but basically have financial freedom because of that. And I had joked like I wanted to retire by 35 and I'm 34. And I realized like, wow, with that home and other investments I'm making, I don't have to work. Even my coaching work, it just gets to be, I do it because I truly love it. And I love to sell these offers and create these programs and watch people transform. So I think I'm really excited this year about expanding more of my real estate business. I acquired a property last week in Bali, so it'll be my second investment property. There's a really special story behind it that I can't share yet. Um, and I'm buying a house here, and I might do another. I have new relationships with developers in Bali where they're getting new projects going, and they want me to be one of their investors. So things like that just it feels exciting to do well in more than one industry, like really well. You know, I have a multiple 7-figure coaching business and now I have a multiple 7-figure real estate business. And that is mind blowing. Like I am just so grateful. And I'm so grateful to also start to be in a position to share that with my clients and start to teach other tools and other ways of building wealth besides just our coaching or service-based businesses.
Yeah, phenomenal. Congratulations on that. And I'm tying that through to one of my wealth things that makes me uncomfortable is actually saving and then reinvesting. Normally I'm investing in programs, I'm investing in the experience, and then, a few months may go by and I'm like, ooh, so that rent money, I guess maybe I shouldn't have gone to Bali for a month. Like, so I really admire your ability to not only overcome your wealth stuff, but to really start to stack it and invest and save. And what exciting opportunities on the horizon.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited for you and Sapphire. We're going to get into such, like, I feel 2024 especially has just been this, it's come in with this energy of, hey guys, you've been through some contractions. Like everyone I know had a hard 2023, including me.
Mm-hmm.
It just felt like we were in contraction. We were in figuring stuff out, shedding, and now we've done the work and now it's expansion time. And I've just felt the frequency. I think we all carry money energy. And I have this it's one of my intuitive gifts. I can look at someone, if I interact with them a little bit, I'll know what their money energy is, meaning how much money can this person hold right now? Like what is their maximum net worth? And that can change as that person grows. And I felt my personal net worth and money energy just literally 10x over the last month or two. And I've been doing a lot of inner work to support that and kind of like redoing the matrix. And that feels really exciting to be able to give that transmission through my work now and give that transmission to my clients. And yeah.
Oh, I'm so excited to receive that transmission in a deeper way. Any other predictions for 2024? Have you had any messages come through you that you think apply to society as a whole or even healers in this industry?
I do think it's a really good year for abundance and growth and risk taking. I have a feeling I got out of the crypto market for a while and then it came right back into my world very strong about 2 months ago. And I taught myself to day trade actually, like in a few days. I went into a YouTube hole and I have a lot of friends in the crypto space. So I just learned a lot. And so I have a prediction and I'm feeling very bullish on the crypto market becoming who knows, but I think we're going to see a transition into mainstream blockchain currencies everywhere in this year, potentially next year. So I'm buying up the currencies. I'm learning about the projects. I'm positioning myself and not just things that are going to make money over the next 6 to 8 months in this bull run that people are talking about, but what are actually the currencies that foreign exchanges and central banks of other countries are buying up at this point that are going to be important like 10 years from now. That's where I see the opportunity to build generational wealth if we can see that future coming and get ahead of it and partake before we're forced to. So I'm really excited about the crypto space. I'm by no means an expert, but I'm the pastime investor. So yeah, let's see what happens in the blockchain space this year.
Well, I'll be keeping my eye on that now that you've mentioned it. It's very exciting. And I like the idea of really focusing on building that generational wealth and not just how do I get through the rest of this year and maybe the year after, but what's 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, especially with 401ks, retirements failing. We've got some big journeys ahead of us.
Yeah, totally. I had to get rid of my wealth advisor last month because I was like, I just hold such an interesting belief system about the way currencies are going to change, and not anything that's too crazy, or I don't believe in doomsday scenarios at all. I see a very quick acceleration of technology coming and a devaluation of the dollar, and I want to be ahead of it. And he was just like, I cannot work with you. Like, we clash so much. And I'm like, that's no problem. I will take all of my money out of your investments and I will put it into ones that I personally believe in, and I will bet on those.
I love that. And betting on yourself, betting on your intuition. And from what I can tell, it hasn't led you astray thus far.
Not at all. Yeah, I'm very grateful.
So for my listeners who would love to explore how to work with you further, what is the best way for them to do that at this point?
Well, first of all, if you listened to this and you loved what Barrett and I talked about, please just send me an Instagram DM. I actually don't have someone who responds to those for me because I really like responding to them. So tell me what you got out of this conversation or if this resonated with you. And then I have some free marketing trainings that people have literally made tens of thousands of dollars from that you can take as a starting point. So if you go to elainaray.com/free gifts, there is the 5-figure offers in any niche, which are some wealth codes and practical strategies for selling $10,000 plus offers, which is what a strategy my clients are using. And then the sought after training, which is around marketing and messaging and how to communicate the value of what it is that you do. And then I run the Sapphire Mastermind. I have private coaching. I have courses and other things that you can explore on the website, or just reach out to me and share a bit about who you are, and I can help to see if I have any resources for you.
Wonderful. And I will attest, she answers all of her messages personally. Before we started working together, I was so excited to get your voice notes and really put sealed the deal for me on working with you. So we'll have all of that linked up in the show notes as well. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your love, your intuition, your knowledge, your journey with us today. I'm very inspired by you and so excited to continue to go deeper and push my edges with you. So thank you.
Well, thanks so much for having me.